Take the mic.
We've put together a short presentation on Transparent Chennai. I'm going to first present what we do, and then Kadambari is going to talk a little bit on pedestrian infrastructure in particular, and then I'm going to talk on public toilets. So at Transparent Chennai, one of the things we do is create and collect data, and we do this in a context where data is of very poor quality. It comes to us in different formats. Some of them are books, some of them are PDF files, and we aggregate and compile this data, and we use this data to make sense of our city. We focus on neglected issues in the city, and we have a pro-poor approach. We focus on issues that affect the poor the most. So here's a question for everyone. Why do you think we need data? And what kind of data do we need? And how do we use this data?
To make informed decisions.
Yeah. That's actually a very important comment, because the government usually takes decisions without this data. And this is something we've noticed in our work.
Well, that's what I do for data.
And another thing we do is participatory planning. And what is it and why should we have it? Does anyone have?
Yeah, I think the failure of all planning is because of lack of participation.
Yes.
So, I mean, the planners sit in their ivory towers, and what they do has no relation to the real problems.
Yeah. So these are the two things we focus on very strongly in Transparent Chennai: data and participatory planning. We work on city governance, we work on slums and informal settlements, we work on solid waste management, we work on public toilets and pedestrian issues. We also have some people working on data and technology, how to visualize the data we get, how to use low-cost tools to map infrastructure, etc. The city governance team works on strengthening processes which relate to the access to municipal services like water, sanitation, public toilets, and we work very closely with the government. We are also interested in creating forums for dialogue, so we try and bring the councillor to meet people and talk to them and try and sort out issues on a monthly basis. We've done this in one slum in Royalpuram, where the councillor has actually come, talked to slum residents, and over 6 months has made significant improvements to their area. There's a lot of money coming to cities now. There's schemes like the JNNURM, which is the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, and there's also the Rajiv Awas Yojana. And the Slums and Informal Settlements team works on researching these schemes which have a pro-poor focus and then disseminating this research in slums and informal settlements. We've also recently been doing some work on mapping homeless hotspots and actually looking at the infrastructure and homeless shelters in Chennai. The solid waste management team aims to create one zero waste ward in Chennai. This is Ward 173. And what's interesting about that project is they are going to include informal workers in their plan for this ward. They're also working closely with the Madras Institute of Development Studies and the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives. So, in Transparent Chennai, we also rely a lot on maps to visualize our data. This is a map of heritage areas in Chennai, and these areas were taken from the Padmanabhan Committee report. And the polygons there, those polygons on the side, are actually areas where there's a high density of heritage sites. We believe that you can only preserve heritage if you first document it. So we've actually created information about each point on this map. So if you click on this map, you get information on your heritage layer. Another thing we do with maps is we file an RTI for road accidents in the city. and we mapped this on a map of Chennai. And we also mapped the proposed metro rail construction on the map of Chennai. And we found that the roads with the highest number of road accidents are exactly the same roads where the metro rail is going to come up. And also, we also found that pedestrians are the most common casualties in road accidents. But the metro rail doesn't have a budget for pedestrian infrastructure. So just overlaying these maps can tell us about how the cities are being planned. This is a map which shows public toilets and slums in Chennai. The orange dots are the public toilets and the blue dots are the slums in Chennai. If you notice, there are some areas where public toilets are near slums, like the place on top. But there are other areas where there's a cluster of public toilets where there's no slum nearby. So this tells us that public toilets are not really built in areas of apparent need for them. We also worked with the government because they're planning to construct new public toilets. So we got them to mark where their existing toilets are and where they want their proposed toilets. So this is also something that helps us plan for the city, because they can see that they don't want an existing toilet very close to a new toilet. Kadambari is going to now talk specifically about the walkability issue.
So how many of you actually walk around Chennai now? 1, 2, 3. Okay, is this just for your morning walks or is it just to actually get some work done?
Yes.
Morning walks. Okay. What are the biggest problems that you all face?
No payments.
No pavements. And?
Works for us.
Things obstructing pavements.
Okay. So as you can see, I mean, there is a lot of problems. Pardon?
More hoardings and whatever little pathway.
Okay.
Transformers also.
So basically different kinds of obstructions. Okay, so what we are trying to do with our project is we are trying to measure pedestrian convenience on any road that in Chennai. Through the project, we are also trying to help advocate for pedestrian infrastructure. There are different factors that influence walkability: safety, security, comfort, and a conducive walking environment. The reason we are doing this project is manifold. Some of it will be immediate, will have an immediate impact. Eventually, a larger, wider impact if things progress and have a positive domino effect. So one of the first things we want to do through this project is we want to raise awareness about pedestrian issues and walking. People have stopped walking. This has affected health. So if we can raise awareness about, the need for people to walk, maybe then people will advocate for better infrastructure, will support pedestrian infrastructure. Awareness about pedestrian issues means people will learn about what is involved in pedestrian infrastructure. We want to bring about equity in the use of public space. So, roads are public space, right? What kind of development do you see prioritized on roads?
Pavements, broader roads.
Okay, so who are the people who get prioritized on roads? Cars. Okay. Do you know, well, I don't know the number offhand, but do you think it's a large percentage of the population that even uses that road? No, because it's a very small percentage of population that even owns vehicles to use the roads. So basically what the government is doing when they talk about development, right now all the government does, and a lot of people, the general public, think that if roads are built, that means the city is developing. That is a wrong notion. It may have held true in the mid-1900s, but it no longer holds true now. Right now, when we talk about development and if the government prioritizes vehicles, they're allowing only a small percentage of the population to move from place A to place B. They're neglecting a majority of the population. They're neglecting the disabled, they're neglecting the elderly, they're neglecting children, they're neglecting the poor. So there's a large percentage, whether rich or poor, who who get neglected. So through this project, we're trying to show that public space should be equally shared with everyone. We want to provide good pedestrian infrastructure to neighborhoods. Through this project, we want to empower citizens. We want citizens to take responsibility for the infrastructure that is provided in their area. It shouldn't be like the government provides something, the citizens take it for granted, take a step back and just use it or misuse it. We want the people involved in the community to speak up, to take responsibility for what has been provided to them. If they see someone doing something wrong, step up, correct them. If they see someone misusing it or things being dirty, take action. We want responsibility. So we want to empower citizens with toolkits and data so that people have the data with which they can go to the government to ask for specific things. We want to give citizens knowledge because it's only with knowledge that people can go to the government and say, we know that you all are supposed to provide X, Y, Z. We have the data to show that you have not provided it. We now want it. We also want to build public-government partnerships because we think it's not a one-sided thing. The government cannot do everything alone, and definitely the public cannot do anything on their own. But we think that when there is conversation and communication between the public and the government, there is a higher level of understanding. The government understands what the people want specifically to their areas. They are able to make decisions in prioritizing projects and giving funds to different kinds of projects. It also helps towards comprehensive planning, where the government and the people work together and say, this is the kind of planning we need, say, for the next 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, so on. And eventually we also are able to hold the government accountable. We want to bring life to our streets, which also equals to safety. No life means it's more dangerous. More life on the street means more eyes on the street, which means the place is safer. We want to boost local economy and provide a means of livelihood. Who here thinks vendors are a big problem on footpaths? No one? I love you. Well, a lot of the reactions we've had from a lot of communities is that vendors do create a lot of problem, and it's true. But that's because there are no limits given to the vendors. There's no space provided to the vendors. In fact, there's a new vendors bill where each city is required to provide space to vendors. Now, the only problem with that will be if vendors do not restrict themselves to the space. But that's all part and parcel of the design. But vendors are willing to stay in their space if they're allocated some space. Eventually, with increased pedestrian infrastructure and increased walking, we want to increase the use of public transportation, which in turn will decrease the use of personal vehicular use, which leads to decongested streets, which leads to a healthier environment, a greener environment, where you have cleaner air, which results in happy people leading a better quality of life. So a small thing like this eventually has a domino effect, a much larger effect. So this project that we are working on typically has 7 steps. We identify a neighborhood, and then we have community outreach, where we establish relations with stakeholders within the community, whether it's the shopkeepers, vendors, resident welfare associations, schools, institutions, what have you. Second, we ask the people from the community to come and volunteer with us to survey and collect the data that is to create a real picture of the neighborhood. We also collect data through by filing RTIs, by interviewing councillors and other people around the neighborhood. We then take this data, we digitize it, which helps us in analyzing the neighborhood. once we are able to identify what is there on ground, we are then able to move forward to say what can be done on ground. The next step in terms of pulling the public into the work is we hold design workshops. Now, this is a workshop that we held in Nanganallur, where the first part of the workshop was where we spoke about, showed them the analysis of the data that they helped us collect. Second part of the workshop was we gave teams, different teams, and here we had retired senior citizens, we had school children, we had people from the Women's Association come in. So there were about 40 people. We divided into teams, and we gave each team a kit of parts, different widths for footpaths, different land, building heights. We gave them trees, we gave them street lamps, etc. And we gave them a scaled section of a road that they needed to design. And then they designed it well. And what happened through this is, because of our talk and when we help them identify components that make good pedestrian infrastructure, they were able to use that knowledge to put forward a good design. One of the groups, in fact, removed vendors from the design. But then when we spoke about how vendors can be incorporated through good design, they were convinced, they learned more, and then they were able to incorporate them back into their design. So I think that's a success. Our next step is we take these designs that the community has given and we take them back and we finalize the design with the professional input, and we've got a group of architects, so we work together and get this done. We then prepare an implementation plan where the designs are put together. We try to put forward a step-by-step plan that we can then give the councillors and say, help them plan it out for them. Like in 6 months, this is what you can achieve. In a year, this is what you can achieve. We are right now in this stage for Nanganallur. And finally, we hope to have a follow-up and accountability where we visit the site back after a certain number of months to see what kind of progress is done and analyze why something was done, what helped it happen, or why it wasn't done, and what were the obstacles. So this is basically the walkability project that we've started in Nanganallur, KK Nagar and Anna Nagar, each at different levels. I'll be happy to answer questions at the end of the talk. I'll now give it back to Vinaya, who will talk about public toilets.
Today is World Toilet Day, so it's actually a good day to talk about that. Public toilets are linked to a sustainable and inclusive city, and they're very important for public health. And we've been doing research on what the problems are in Chennai. And this is what we found. There's an absolute gap in the number of public toilets. There are not enough public toilets for the population. The public toilets are not where they're needed most. Assets are usually dilapidated, services are not very good, and there's no monitoring mechanism for public toilets. The norm is actually 1 seat for 60 people. But in undeclared slums in the city, the reality is 1 seat for about 1,000 people. So this is a huge difference. This statistic was actually, we got it from a government report. There's also more male toilets than female toilets. This is an old map of the Corporation of Chennai, and we have a ward-wise toilet count here. There are some wards which have absolutely no toilets, and there are some wards which have more than 16 toilets. So clearly toilets are not very equally distributed over the city. Also, this data is somewhat incorrect. We've been to some of these wards which claim that they don't have toilets, and there are some toilets there. This is the same map that we had shown you earlier. Just to say that toilets are not in areas of apparent need, they are not in slums and informal settlements, and this is where people don't have access to private sanitation. So there should definitely be toilets here. There's also a need for toilets for informal workers, domestic health, informal markets, transport hubs, and this is never taken into consideration while planning for toilets in the city. We did a survey in Ward 176. Again, this is the old Ward 176. The corporation boundaries have expanded since. And we found that 7 out of 11 toilets were not usable. And we defined a toilet as being usable if it had a door, if it had water, if it had electricity, and if it was not blocked. So 7 of these 11 toilets actually failed this criteria. We find that many toilets are dilapidated. I'm not sure if this image is very clear. They're also misused. This is a telephone operator operating a booth inside a public toilet. Drains are blocked, there's insufficient water, and usually there are no bathing and washing areas in toilets. And in slums, it's not just about the toilet, you need to have some area for bathing and washing as well. And there are no clear lines of accountability. Public toilets are supposed to be free, but there are many caretakers in toilets who still charge for toilets. There's no clear relationship between the councillor, who's a local elected representative, and officers in the corporation. There's no incentive structure for maintenance. The corporation maintains toilets, they also monitor themselves on how they're doing. And the system for complaints is not very centralized. So they receive complaints on the phone, in writing, if someone goes to their office, and these complaints are not made public. So you never know if people are complaining about one toilet repeatedly over time. So it's very difficult actually to find out more about this. So how we've tried to tackle this problem is to depend on citizen-generated data and use participatory planning exercises to plan for toilets. This is one exercise we did in a slum near Marina Beach, where we asked the people, we took a map of the slum and we asked the people, where do you want toilets? Show us where your existing toilets are, which of these toilets are not usable, and what are the problems in these toilets. And this actually helped us a lot because it told us exactly which toilets were unusable and exactly where people knew that there was space for a toilet. So this is a plan which actually comes from the people for new public toilets. We also did this exercise in a corporation school because toilets in corporation schools are also not in very good condition. So we asked the children to design their ideal toilet, and it was a good time to do this because their toilet was getting renovated. And we actually got some really interesting responses. We used matchsticks and erasers and bindis and things like that, and we developed a key. So we said eraser is a wash basin and a matchstick is a wall and things like that. So we developed this key interactively. And we found that the girls actually built 2 walls for their toilets because the boys would always peep in. And they had put wash basins in each of their cubicles. And also they had given space on the top for collected water because they said there was never water in the taps. So even though this may be a design that's not actually implementable, it tells you the problems that children have and it gives you a way to address them. We presented this to the school principal. So this is the work we do very specifically on the walkability project and on the public toilets project. And our website actually has all these maps. There's a build a map page where you can actually overlay different types of data. So you can see the heritage map with the metro rail construction map, with administrative boundaries, etc. These are questions which we are still grappling with. How do we measure the impact of our work? And also how do we reconcile communities and technology? We do a lot of mapping and we do a lot of work which requires back-end digitization. So how do we reconcile these 2 things? And also if you have any questions.
I have. Sorry.
Go ahead.